Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Jamel from Fantasy Life, and today we're going to look and try to find out if Mortal Kombat 11 is the best selling NetherRealm game of all time. Yes, no, maybe so. What is it? So if you like this video, make sure you like, subscribe, favorite, all that good stuff. Let's get into the video. Now, in order to determine whether MK11 is the best selling NetherRealm game of all time and potentially like the second best selling fighting game of all time, or third best selling fighting game of all time, we need to look at the sales of Mortal Kombat X. Because as of right now, NetherRealm has yet to release the numbers for Mortal Kombat 11 in terms of its sales, but there are a lot of indications to say that it has outsold Mortal Kombat X. And as we do know for a fact, Mortal Kombat X is NetherRealm's best-selling game, and it is the best-selling Mortal Kombat game in the franchise. So let's look at Mortal Kombat X sales first, and then we'll compare it to how Mortal Kombat 11 has been selling. So, Mortal Kombat X was actually released April 7, 2015, and it came out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. It went on to be the 9th best-selling game in 2015, selling over 5 million copies, making it the fastest-selling game in the franchise. If you look at an article by Game Revolution, it went on to sell over 11 million units. Now, that article by Game Revolution actually came out on April 2019, 4 years after Mortal Kombat X had released, and a few days to weeks before Mortal Kombat 11 would launch. So in 4 years, Mortal Kombat X had sold 11 million units. In that Game Revolution article, it goes on to say, just a few weeks away from the release of its sequel, series co-creator and NetherRealm studio head Ed Boon has revealed that Mortal Kombat X sold the most of any other entry in the series since its release in 2015. Mortal Kombat X sales have reached about 11 million. Boon revealed this rough number as a part of a recent interview with Game Informers in comparisons to 2011's Mortal Kombat reboot, reportedly sold 5 million units by the time the sequel rolled out in 2015. These numbers mark Mortal Kombat X as one of the biggest selling fighting games of all time. Now, if that's not enough information for you, VGSales.fandom.com actually has a stat sheet that shows the best-selling games of all time, best-selling fighting games of all time, and it's a fairly recent sheet because it does have Smash Bros. Ultimate on number 1 with 18 million units sold. So that goes to show that it is fairly recent as of 2020. It has to be due to the fact that Smash Bros. Have recently just claimed the title of best-selling fighting game of all time. So, with that being said, number 1, Smash Bros. Ultimate at over 18 million. Then you have Street Fighter 2 with 15.5 million. Then you also have the third one, which is Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS and the Wii U with almost 15 million units. You have Smash Bros. Brawl with 13 million, and then you have number 5, Mortal Kombat X at 11 million units, which goes to show that it is the best-selling fighting game in NetherRealm's history, as well as in the Mortal Kombat franchise history, and just being among the best-selling fighting games of all time, which with 3 of those 5 slots going to a Smash Brothers game, which, I mean, we all know Smash Brothers is hugely popular and it is the best-selling fighting game franchise of all time. But you also have Street Fighter 2 up there, which there's been so many iterations of Street Fighter 2, it's ridiculous. And that game's been out for like 25 years, so it's not that impressive that that wouldn't be up there. But you do have MKX up there, and that's number 5. We finally make it to Mortal Kombat 11, which released April 23rd, 2019, and this game came out for everything. Like I said before, MKX came out for PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4, but Mortal Kombat 11 came out to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, Google Stadia, Nintendo Switch. Basically, if you were a platform, you had Mortal Kombat 11, which helped greatly and is still helping greatly in its sales. If you look up MK11 sales, you will get an article by Wikipedia that says in North America, Mortal Kombat 11 was the best-selling video game software for the month of April. This, along with Fortnite, contributed to digital game sales reaching over 8.8 billion in April. In another article by VentureBeat, SuperData results back this claim up, with the company reporting that Mortal Kombat 11 was the best digital launch in the franchise history, selling 1.8 million digital copies, a huge increase compared to the 400,000 copies Mortal Kombat X sold in 2015. So it actually more than tripled the sales of MKX, which, as we know, is the best-selling game in the franchise and in NetherRealm's history. Another article by WePlay that came out January 20th, 2020, which is very recent, as earlier this year, goes on to say that Mortal Kombat was the 5th best-selling game of 2019. In that article, it says, according to the MPD Group retail tracking service, Mortal Kombat 11 is the 5th best-selling game of 2019 in the US. Following in 7th place is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, making both the only fighting games in the top 10. That does not mean that Mortal Kombat 11 is outselling or has outsold Super Smash Bros., as most of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate sales came from December 2018, which was the month it actually launched. But it does go to show that MK11 in comparison is selling very well. In fact, Mortal Kombat is selling so well that in a BusinessInsider.com article, it was actually the 19th best-selling game of 2020. Now, this Business Insider article is dated April 2020, so it's a fairly recent article. And in that article, for Mortal Kombat 11 to be the 19th best-selling game of a year, and it's already a year old, is pretty impressive, especially for a fighting game. When you cope that with the fact that in April, it actually sold really well in April. It was actually the 13th best-selling game in April for the whole month of April, which was actually the same month that the Aftermath DLC dropped. That Aftermath DLC has bumped up the sales for Mortal Kombat 11 greatly. It has renewed interest in Mortal Kombat 11, so much that actually in May of 2020, Mortal Kombat 11 was actually the 5th best-selling game of May 2020. It actually outsold juggernauts for that month. Juggernauts such as Red Dead Redemption, Minecraft, Final Fantasy VII, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order for the month of May. It actually outsold those games, which is impressive when you consider the fact that Mortal Kombat 11 is a year old, and fighting games is a quote-unquote niche industry. Mortal Kombat seems to be proving that that may no longer be the case, that fighting games may not be as niche as we once thought. So, with that being said, everything points to Mortal Kombat 11 potentially outselling MKX, if it hasn't already outsold MKX. The sales is continuing to just improve and impress, and due to the fact that Mortal Kombat 11 is on so many systems, so many platforms, it's going to continue to sell. It's going to continue to impress. You do have consoles such as the Nintendo Switch, which is still selling very well. You still have the PlayStation, which is still selling very well. And with every new member coming in, you have renewed interest with the whole Aftermath DLC. You're going to have more Switch members, more Xbox members, and more PlayStation members looking to pick up Mortal Kombat 11. So even though we don't have the exact numbers for Mortal Kombat 11, I can safely say that Mortal Kombat 11, if it hasn't sold, will become NetherRealm's best-selling franchise, best-selling game of all time. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think Mortal Kombat 11 is the best-selling or will be the best-selling Mortal Kombat game of all time? Let me know. Remember, your life is a fantasy. So, sorry for the last minute update on this video. I just came across this information. I know I'm pretty late on it, but I did come across this information and I wanted to add it into the video. So I'm going to edit this part in at the end of the video because I pretty much already finished the video. So what had happened is a tweet by a gentleman called Matt Piscatella came out about a month ago. As of right now, it's July 14th. He put this tweet out on June 12th. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Matt Piscatella and who he is. He's an industry analyst. Matt Piscatella's career has spanned the entertainment software industry, including tenures with Warner Brothers and Activision. A self-proclaimed game geek, Piscatella has worked in the industry for close to 15 years. So this is a guy who's been in the industry for a while. He's actually worked with Warner Brothers, and for those who don't know, Warner Brothers actually owns the NetherRealm studio, and by contrast, they also own, not contrast, but they also own Mortal Kombat, basically. And this guy's been in the industry for 15 years. He is part of the MPD group, which goes around and they record the sales numbers and stuff like that for video games. Well, on June 12th, Matt Piscatella actually gave us an update on how Mortal Kombat 11 is selling. Now, this guy has dealing with Warner Brothers, so he, of all people, would know what the sales for MK11 is. And he actually gave us an update. So he said on June 12th, Mortal Kombat 11 is the 5th best-selling game of May 2020. Granted, I showed you guys that information earlier on in the video. It is the highest the title has ranked on the monthly chart since it was 3rd best-selling game of June 2019. Cool. Mortal Kombat 11 is currently the 5th best-selling fighting game in U.S. history. Now, on the chart that I showed you earlier, Mortal Kombat X was actually the 5th best-selling game in U.S. history. So, what is it? Did Mortal Kombat 11 overtake Mortal Kombat X? Or did Mortal Kombat X take maybe the 4th spot and now Mortal Kombat 11 is right underneath that? We don't know yet, but we will be finding out sooner than later. Remember, your life is a fantasy. And what do you think? Did Mortal Kombat 11 already outsell Mortal Kombat X? Leave it in the comments below, and remember, your life is a fantasy.